Hello dear students, how are you all? Hope all of you are well. Actually today we are going to discuss chemical bonding. You know the word bonding? Yeah, bonding means we both are bonded with each other, right? So let's start. You are seeing this diagram. This represent that this red color atom is bonded with this white color atoms. Since you don't know which element is that, that's why I pronunciate here that this is a red color atom and that four are white color atoms. Now let's go ahead. Chemical bond is an attractive force which keeps two atoms or ions together in a molecule. Two atoms. Here it's two atoms. Keeps two atoms or ions together in a molecule. A molecule is formed if it is more stable and has lower energy than the individual atoms. See, first of all, remember dear students, whenever any two atoms are there, whatever the energy are there in their individual atoms, but when they form a molecule and they get a stability because they has a low energy than their individual atoms. Normally, only electrons in the outer shell of an atoms are involved in the bond formation. Outer shell means valence electron are involved in a bond formation, and in this process, each atom attains a stable electronic or inert gas configuration. Atom may attain stable electronic configuration in three different ways: by losing or gaining of electrons, by sharing of electrons, or by gaining of electrons. The attractive forces which hold various constituents like atoms or ions etc. together in the different chemical species are called chemical bonds. So you have understand the attractive forces which hold the atoms or ions together in a different chemical species are called chemical bonds. Elements may be divided into the three classes: electropositive elements whose atoms give up one or more electrons easily. They have low ionization potential. You know very well, electropositive elements means alkali metals. Alkali metals lose their electrons easily, so they are having a low ionization potential. And if I talk about the electronegative elements which can gain electrons, they have the higher value of electronegativity. Yes, because they can gain electrons, so they are having a higher electronegativity values. Now, elements which have a little tendency to lose or gain electrons. So you have seen the three different types of bond may be formed depending on the electropositive or electronegative character of atoms involved. So there are totally electropositive and electronegative elements in which they have a tendency to lose or gain the electrons, by which the three types of bond can be formed: electropositive element plus electronegative element gives ionic bond. The second name of ionic bond is electrovalent bond. Electronegative element plus electronegative element give the formation of covalent bond, or less electropositive plus more electronegative element also gives the formation of covalent bond. Electropositive plus electropositive element gives the formation of metallic bond. So as you have seen, ionic bond, covalent bond and metallic bond. Let's discuss the Lewis theory, the octet rule. The Lewis theory gives the first explanation of a covalent bond in the terms of electrons that was generally accepted. If two electrons are shared between the two atoms, this constitutes a bond and binds the atom together. For many light atoms, a stable arrangement is attained when an atom is surrounded by 8 electrons. Remember what the Lewis theory had said? The Lewis theory had said that if two electrons are shared between the two atoms, this constitutes a bond and binds the atom together. How you understand this concept? You understand this concept by generally the electrons accept in the covalent bond by the shared. Now the constituent bond which binds them together. For many light atoms, a stable arrangement is attained when the atom is surrounded by 8 electrons. See, each and every element has a tendency to gain inert gas configuration because they understand the inert gas is stable, they do not react with other elements. So each and every element has an affinity to gain its nearest inert gas configuration. So they complete octet in their outermost shell. The octet can be made up from some electrons which are totally owned and some electrons which are shared. Thus, the atoms continue to form bonds until and unless they have made up an octet of electrons. This is called the octet rule. Remember the word, the octet can be made up from some electrons which are totally owned and some electrons which are shared. Thus, atoms continue to form bonds until and unless they have made up an octet of electrons. This is called the octet rule. The octet rule explains the observed valencies in a large number of cases. There are exceptions to the octet rule. For example, hydrogen is stable with only 2 electrons. Other exceptions are discussed later today. The conventional Lewis structure representation of a pair of bonded electrons is means by a dash, usually called a bond. Lone pair or non-bonded electrons are represented by dot. Some structures are represented here. You can see here the structure of ammonia and H3. Nitrogen has 5 valence electrons, hydrogen has 1 valence electrons. By sharing, the nitrogen has completed its octet. You can see here these 2 electrons are known as lone pair electrons in the ammonia, and the hydrogen is called a bond pair electrons. If I talk about the carbon dioxide, you can see both the oxygens are having 2 lone pair of electrons and 2 bond both the sides for carbon. You can see here, if I talk about the acetaldehyde, CH3CHO, is therefore useful to remember some important categories of exceptions. Odd electron species like NO, NO2, O2, etc. Since it is impossible to distribute an odd number of electrons into pairs, this species necessarily violate the octet rule. So remember here, as already I have told you, octet rule means they are completing their valence with 8 electrons. But if I talk about the odd electrons or odd number of electrons into the pair, they do not obey. These species necessarily violate the octet rule. The valence bond theory handles such species rather clumsily, like odd electron bonds, etc. The molecular orbital theory copes much better. Species in which the central atom expand its octet, so to speak, like PCl5, SF6, many transition metal compounds, etc. Electron deficient species like BCl3, BeCl2, AlCl3, B2H6, etc., in which the central atom has fewer than 8 electrons. Means they are super molecules which are having more than 8 electrons. Some are having less than 8 electrons. So these are the limitations of the octet rule theory. We will discuss the concept of chemical bonding for IIT JEE under the following topics in more detail, like ionic bonding, covalent bonding, bond characteristics, hybridization, VSEPR theory, molecular orbital theory, covalent character in ionic bonds according to Fajans rule, metallic and hydrogen bond. Let's show you the table content of ionic bond. Means what things we are going to study in ionic bond. So the things which we are going to continue in ionic bonding is electrovalency, criteria for ionic bond formation, energy change during the formation of ionic bond, determination of lattice energy, characteristics of ionic compounds, and you can refer these all the things as I will teach you. So let's begin with electrovalency. You can see this structure. This type of valency involves transfer of electrons from one atom to another, whereby each atom may attain octet in their outermost cell. The resulting ions that formed by gain or loss of electrons are held together by electrostatic force of attraction due to opposite nature of their charge. The reaction between the potassium and chlorine to form potassium chloride is an example of this type of valency. So what is electrovalency? Electrovalency is formed or involved by the transfer of electrons from one atom to another atom, in which both the atoms attain the octet in their outermost cell, resulting by the form or gain or lose of electrons, and this gaining or lose of electrons are held together by electrostatic force of attraction. So I am giving you some of the examples of electrovalency or electrovalent bond. You can see here potassium chloride, KCl. Potassium lose one electron and chlorine gain one electron to form potassium chloride, K plus Cl minus. Here potassium has one electron excess of its octet and chlorine has one deficient of octet. So potassium donate its electron to chlorine, forming an ionic bond. Now let's start calcium oxide. In the calcium, 2 electrons are extra, and in oxygen 2 electron is deficient. Here the oxygen accepts 2 electron from the calcium atom. It may be noted that ionic bond is not a true bond, as there is no proper overlap of orbitals. What are the criteria for ionic bond formation then? One of the species must have electron in excess of octet, while the other should be deficient of octet. Deficient means less of octet. Does this mean that all the substance having surplus electron and species having deficient electrons would form ionic bond? The answer is obviously no. Now you should ask why. The reasoning is that in an ionic bond, one of the species is cation and another is anion. To form a cation from a neutral atom, energy must be supplied to remove the electron, and the energy is called ionization energy. Now it is obvious that lower the ionization energy of the element, the easier is to remove the electron. To form the anion, the electron adds up to a neutral atom, and in this process energy is released. This process is called electron affinity. As all of us know, what is ionization energy? The minimum energy required to remove an electron from an isolated gaseous atom is called ionization energy, and the energy by which an element accepts the electrons by removing the energy, that's called electron affinity. So for an ionic bond, one of the species must have low ionization energy and the other should have high electron affinity. Low ionization energy is mainly exhibited by the alkali and alkaline earth metals, and high electron affinity by the halogens and chalcogens. Therefore, this group of elements are predominant in the field of ionic bonding. How do energy change during the formation of ionic bond? The formation of ionic bond can be considered to proceed in this 3-step. Let's see that 3-step. So you can see here the 3 steps by which the ionic bond is formed. Formation of a gaseous cations, that is ionization energy. First of all, any solid alkali or alkaline earth metals is converted into the gaseous atom, and then we should remove 1 electrons from that gaseous atom by giving the ionization energy. The energy required for this step is called ionization energy, which is denoted by IE. Second step is formation of gaseous anion, that is Hg plus E, that is equal to Hg plus electron affinity, means halogen, the energy released from this step is called electron affinity. And the third step is packing of ions of opposite charge to form ionic solid. As you can see, the cation plus anion gives an ionic compound plus energy. The energy released in this step is called lattice energy. If anybody will ask you what is lattice energy, the energy released by forming an ionic compound is called lattice energy. Now for stable ionic bonding, the total energy released should be more than the energy required. So in the above discussion, we have developed the factors which favor the formation of ionic bond and also determine its strength. These factors have already been discussed, as already I have told you about the ionization energy. In the formation of ionic bond, a metal atom loses electron to form cation. This process required energy equal to the ionization energy, means the minimum energy required to remove an electron from an isolated gaseous atom is called ionization energy. Lesser the value of ionization energy, greater is the tendency of the atom to form cation. For example, alkali metals form cation quite easily because of the low values of ionization energy. Now if I talk about the electron affinity. What is electron affinity? The electron affinity is the energy released when gaseous atom accepts the electron to form a negative ion. Thus, the value of electron affinity gives the tendency of an atom to form an ion. Means when any halogen atom gains 1 electron and accepts a negative charge on it, so they remove some amount of energy or they gain some amount of energy. That energy is called electron affinity. Now, greater the value of electron affinity, more is the tendency to form an ion. More is the tendency of an atom to form an ion. For example, halogens having the highest electron affinities within their respective periods to form ionic compounds with metals very easily. Now, as I was talking about the lattice energy, once the gaseous ions are formed, the ions of opposite charge come close together and pack up 3-dimensionally in a definite geometric pattern to form ionic crystal. Once the gaseous ions are formed, the ions of opposite charges come close together and they form 3-dimensionally in a definite geometric pattern to form ionic crystal. Since the packing of ions of opposite charge take place as a result of attractive force between them, the process is accompanied with the release of energy referred to as lattice energy. Lattice energy may be defined as the amount of energy released when 1 mole of ionic solid is formed by the close packing of gaseous ions. What it means to say, when a cation and anion form an ionic compound, the energy which is released by forming that ionic compound is called lattice energy. In short, the conditions for the stable ionic bonding are ionization energy of cation forming atoms should be low, electron affinity of anion forming atom should be high, lattice energy should be high. By these three conditions, the ionic bond can be formed. Now let's do the determination of lattice energy. Determination of lattice energy. The direct calculation of lattice enthalpy is quite difficult because the required data is often not available. The direct calculation of lattice enthalpy is quite difficult because the required data is often not available. Therefore, the lattice enthalpy is determined indirectly by the use of Born-Haber cycle. This may be the new word for you, that is a Born-Haber cycle. Since always you know very well the lattice energy is not available, so that time it can be used by the Born-Haber cycle. The cycle uses ionization enthalpies, electron gain enthalpies and other data for the calculation of lattice enthalpy. The procedure is based on the Hess law, which states that the enthalpy of the reaction is the same whether it takes place in a single step or in more than one step. In order to understand, let us consider the energy changes during the formation of sodium chloride. For metallic sodium and chlorine gas, the net energy change during the process is represented by delta H. Net energy, remember this, net energy. You can see here the Born-Haber cycle. You know very well what is sublimation, ionization energy, electron affinity and lattice energy. So you can see this Born-Haber cycle. Delta HF naught is equal to delta H sublimation plus ionization energy plus delta H diffusion or dissociation plus electron affinity plus U. For example, Born-Haber cycle for sodium chloride. You can see here that for sodium chloride, from sodium solid to sodium gaseous atom, 108 kilojoule amount of energy is required. So that is called delta H sublimation. And from sodium gaseous atom to sodium cation gaseous atom, means the ionization energy is required 496 kilojoule. So then the sodium gaseous atom can be converted into sodium plus gaseous atom. Let's talk about the chlorine gas. Chlorine is already a gaseous atom. If we take a half chlorine gaseous atom, by the diffusing, it is converted into Cl gaseous atom by putting 122 kilojoule energy. And now the chlorine gaseous atom gains the electron by putting the electron affinity of minus 349 kilojoule per mole. Now the sodium cation and chlorine anion is formed now by putting the electrostatic force and the lattice energy minus 788 kilojoule, the sodium chloride is formed. So you have seen that how sodium solid turns to sodium gaseous turns to sodium cation, chlorine gaseous half molecules turns to chlorine single atom gaseous atom, and how this chlorine gaseous single atom converts to chlorine gaseous atom. Now putting the lattice energy, they form sodium chloride ionic compound. So you can see the net energy, delta HF naught is equal to 108 for sodium, sodium cation 496, chlorine gas to chlorine atom 122, and chlorine gas to chloride minus 349, and the lattice energy minus 788. The total amount of energy is minus 411 kilojoule per mole. Refer to the following. This video will be more concept clearing for the lattice energy and the Born-Haber cycle. Now let's solve some problem upon the Born-Haber cycle. Calculate the lattice energy of MgBr2 magnesium bromide. Given that the enthalpy of magnesium bromide is minus 524 kilojoule per mole, sum of the first and second ionization enthalpy is 148 kilojoule per mole. What we have to calculate? Lattice enthalpy of MgBr2. So as you can see, the sublimation energy of magnesium is 2187 kilojoule per mole. Vaporization energy of bromine ion is 31 kilojoule per mole. Dissociation energy of bromine gaseous is 193 kilojoule per mole. Electron gain enthalpy of bromine gaseous atom is minus 331 kilojoule per mole. So the solution will be delta H naught is equal to S plus IE plus delta H plus D plus 2 into electron affinity plus lattice energy. By calculating all these values, the lattice energy will be minus 2421 kilojoule per mole. So this was the Born-Haber cycle calculation. Let's discuss the characteristics of ionic compound. The following are some of the general properties shown by this compound. Crystalline nature. These compounds are usually crystalline in nature with constituent units as ions. The force of attraction between the ions is non-directional and extends in all the directions. Each ion is surrounded by a number of oppositely charged ions, and this number is called coordination number. The compounds are usually crystalline in nature with the constituent unit ions. Force of attraction between the ions is non-directional and extends in all the directions. Each ion is surrounded by a number of oppositely charged ions, and this number is also called coordination number. Hence, they form three-dimensional solid aggregates since electrostatic force of attraction act in all the directions. Therefore, the ionic compounds do not possess directional characteristics and hence do not show the stereoisomerism. Due to the strong electrostatic attraction between these ions, the ionic compounds have high melting and boiling point. In solid state, the ions are strongly attracted and hence are not free to move. Therefore, in solid state, ionic compounds do not conduct electricity. However, in fused state or in aqueous solution, the ions are free to move and hence conduct electricity. So this is the crystalline nature. Solubility. Ions compounds are fairly soluble in polar solvents and insoluble in non-polar solvents. This is because the polar solvents have high values of dielectric constant, which defines as the capacity of the solvent to weaken the forces of attraction between the electrical charges immersed in the solvent. This is why the water having the high value of dielectric constant is one of the best solvents. The solubility in polar solvents like water can also be explained by the dipole nature of the water, where the oxygen of the water is the negative and hydrogen being positive. Water molecules pull the ions of the ionic compound from the crystal lattice. These ions are then surrounded by water dipoles with the oppositely charged ends directed towards them. These solvated ions lead an independent existence and are thus dissolved in water. The electrovalent compound dissolves in solvent if the value of the salvation energy is higher than the lattice of that compound. So AB plus lattice energy gives A plus and B minus. These ions by solvent molecule. This process of exothermic is called salvation. What is called? Salvation. You can see here A cation is dissolved in the solvent. So what's the amount of energy has been removed? Similarly in the B anion dissolved in the Y solvent, the amount of energy released. The value of solvation energy depend on the relative size of the ions. Smaller the ions, more is the salvation. The non-polar solvents do not solvate ions and thus do not release energy, due to which they do not dissolve ionic compounds. You can see this diagram. In the ionic reactions, ionic compounds furnish ion in solution. Chemical reactions are due to the presence of these ions. So the examples are sodium sulfate turns into sodium plus and sulfate minus. Barium chloride turns into barium 2 plus and chloride minus. So this was our ionic bonding. In the next video session, I will discuss about the covalent bonding and the valence bond theory. In the next video, we are going to discuss about covalency, valence bond theory, sigma and pi bonding, coordinate covalency, conditions for formation of covalent bond, polar and non-polar covalent bonds, maximum covalency, dipole moment, and the calculation of resultant bond moment. So these are all the things I will teach you in the next video. Hope all of you understand how to reach the node of this chemical bond. That's all. Thank you. If you have liked this channel, then hit the like button and subscribe the channel and share this video with your friend so they will also understand how to read a node and how to understand the concept while reading the notes. That's all. Thank you. Namaste. Have a nice day.